I moved into this apartment in Portland about a month and a half ago. It's in this older building from the 1940s. Red brick, 3 floors, ivy crawling up one side, like something out of an old movie. Not the kind of place you think creepy stuff happens. I was honestly stoked when I found it. I'm 33, single, just got out of a rough relationship and needed a change of scenery. New job in the city, new apartment, new start. Right. The apartment itself is on the top floor, Unit 3C. It's small but charming, wood floors with a few creaky spots, these gorgeous arched windows in the living room, and crown molding that looks like it's been here since World War II. My bedroom's in the back, facing an alley with an old fire escape outside the window. There's a weird, long hallway connecting the kitchen to the living area, and this tiny laundry closet with a stacked washer and dryer shoved in awkwardly like it was an afterthought. The first few nights were totally normal. I was still unpacking, figuring out where to put everything. I'd set up my bed and was sleeping on it surrounded by boxes, ordering takeout, drinking cheap red wine, and falling asleep to Netflix humming in the background. Life was quiet, almost peaceful. Almost. Then, on the 5th night, I remember because it was a Friday, and I had taken a hot shower and was just starting to settle into bed, I heard it. A voice. A whisper. Clear as day. It said, "Ethan." That's my name, by the way. Ethan Cole. At first I thought it was the TV, but I had already turned it off. The apartment was silent except for the distant hum of the fridge and some occasional creaking from the old pipes in the walls. I remember sitting up and just listening. Nothing. I brushed it off as my imagination. It had to be. But the next night, it happened again. This time it came when I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom. My name, again. Ethan. Only this time it was lower. More deliberate. It sounded like it was coming from inside the wall. Not behind me, not outside, inside. The walls in this place are thick plaster over brick, not like modern drywall. It makes sounds carried differently, more muted. More internal. So I started investigating, tapping the walls like some idiot in a horror movie. And that's when I found it. Behind a plastic shelving unit in my bedroom closet, hidden in plain sight, was a seam in the wall I hadn't noticed before. It wasn't a door exactly, more like a narrow rectangular cutout, maybe 3 feet high, sealed with a painted wood panel that had clearly been there for decades. No hinges, no latch. But there was something off about it. The edges were lined with old caulking that had cracked in some places. When I touched it, the wood felt soft. Damp, almost. Like there was air or something moving behind it. I texted my friend Josh about it. He's a contractor in the area. I said, "Dude, I think I found a sealed crawl space in my closet." His reply? "Bro, that's sketchy AF. Leave it alone unless you want raccoons flying at your face." But I couldn't let it go. Over the next few days, the whispering got worse. It would only happen at night, always after midnight. The voice never said anything but my name, and always in a whisper like someone knew me. Like someone was waiting for me. It wasn't a random voice, it sounded like a woman. Soft, breathy. Familiar. Which was almost more disturbing. Then something new happened. Last Wednesday, I was jolted awake around 2:13 a.m. I know the exact time because my phone was on my chest. I'd fallen asleep watching videos. There was a bang, loud, sharp, like something slamming from inside the wall. I jumped up, heart racing, and just stared at the closet. The room was dark except for the faint blue light from a street lamp bleeding in through the curtains. And then I saw it. The panel. That sealed crawlspace panel. It was slightly ajar. Like maybe half an inch. I swear on everything, I never touched it. I didn't even have tools to mess with it yet. But there it was, cracked open just enough to show pure blackness inside. I couldn't breathe for a second. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and tiptoed across the room. When I got close, the air felt cooler. Like there was a breeze slipping out from that dark opening. And then, I heard it again. Closer this time. "Ethan." Right in front of my face. I slammed the closet doors shut and piled a laundry basket and a chair in front of it. Then I slept on the couch with every light on. I didn't sleep much. The next morning I was exhausted. I called my landlord, a woman named Karen Morales who lives 2 hours away. She was polite but seemed distracted. I asked her if she knew anything about a crawlspace in 3C. Her voice got really quiet. "You found that?" she said. "It's supposed to be sealed. You're not messing with it, right?" I told her I wasn't, not yet at least. She went quiet for a few seconds and then said, "Don't open it. I mean it. I'll send someone to check on it next week." Next week. Like I could just sit around for days while some haunted hole in the wall whispered my damn name at night. That's when I decided I'd handle it myself. Whatever's behind that panel, mouse, raccoon, psycho neighbor, I was going to find out. But man, I was not ready for what I found. I didn't sleep again after that night. My body was wrecked, dry throat, twitching eye, mind racing in 1,000 directions. I started second-guessing everything. Maybe it was just the old building settling. Maybe it was some weird echo from a neighbor's TV. Maybe, just maybe, I was starting to lose it. But every time I passed that damn closet, something in my gut turned. I felt watched. Observed. On Friday night, I finally decided to open it. I bought a flathead screwdriver from a 24-hour hardware store on Belmont, and came back around midnight. I didn't tell Josh or anyone. Honestly, I didn't want to hear anyone tell me not to do it. I was way past logic at that point. I had to know. So I moved the laundry basket and chair, opened the closet door, and crouched down in front of the panel. The little crack was still there. I took a breath, shoved the screwdriver in the gap, and slowly, so slowly, started prying the board off. It made this sick cracking sound as the old caulking broke apart, flaking off in dusty white strips. The smell hit me first. Mildew, wet wood, and something else. Something sweet and off, like rotting flowers. Once the board was loose, I pulled it free and set it aside. Behind it was a narrow black crawl space, maybe 4 feet high and just as wide. The space extended into pitch darkness. I shined my phone flashlight into it and saw cobwebs thick enough to be clumps, old boards nailed together like patchwork, and broken chunks of plaster lying on the dusty floor. And then I saw it, scrawled in black marker across the far interior wall. "Be quiet. She hears." I froze. The handwriting looked childlike. Jagged. As if someone had written it in a panic. My breath felt shallow, like I couldn't inhale fully. I should have stopped there. I knew I should have. But I couldn't. I crawled inside. It felt like sliding into a coffin. The air was cold and damp, clinging to my skin. The floor was uneven, bits of wood and debris scattered everywhere. The light from my phone flickered as I moved forward, casting huge dancing shadows on the cracked interior walls. It didn't look like any kind of utility space. There were no wires, no ducts, just rotted wood beams and a narrow path. After a few feet, I came to a fork. A fork. In a crawl space. The passage split into 2 tight corridors. On the left, there was a faint smell of burnt plastic. On the right, a draft of cool air brushed across my cheek. I picked the right. I barely made it 6 feet in before I found the first object. It was an old Polaroid photograph. Just lying there, face down in the dust. I picked it up and flipped it over. It showed a young woman, maybe early 20s, dark hair tied back, standing in what looked like my apartment. The same arched window, the same crown molding. She was smiling. But her eyes looked like they were mid-blink, or maybe unfocused, like she wasn't looking at the camera at all. On the back, someone had written, Claire. 3C. July 1997. I didn't recognize the name, but I felt this immediate wave of nausea, like I had just stepped into something I wasn't supposed to see. Like the photo was a warning. That's when I heard the knock. It wasn't loud. Just 3 slow knocks from behind me. I spun around with the flashlight, and nothing. Just the narrow, dark crawlway I had come from. I whispered, "Hello?" No answer. I started backing up, crawling faster than I should have. My knee caught on a nail sticking out of one of the beams, and I bit my tongue trying not to scream. Blood filled my mouth, but I didn't stop. I needed out. When I finally made it back into my closet and stood up, I was shaking. My phone buzzed in my hand, and I almost dropped it. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. No name. Just a local area code. It said, "Stop looking." That was it. I didn't reply. I couldn't even think straight. I sat on the edge of my bed for what felt like hours, just staring at the open crawl space. Eventually, I forced myself to get up and reseal the panel. I taped it shut with duct tape. Lots of it. Then I dragged my dresser in front of the closet entirely. I didn't want to see that panel again, let alone hear anything from behind it. But of course, it didn't stop. That night, the whisper came again, louder, more urgent. "Ethan, don't let her out." I couldn't sleep after that. I sat in the living room with all the lights on and a kitchen knife in my hand, just waiting for something to happen. The next morning, I finally texted Josh and told him to come over. When he arrived, I could see in his face that I looked like crap. Pale, wired, shaky. He brought coffee and tools, thinking we were going to bust open a mouse nest or maybe find some hidden storage. I showed him the crawl space. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Dude, I think someone lived in there." And suddenly, everything started making a little too much sense. Josh didn't even want to go inside the crawl space. He stood there in the hallway for a long minute, eyes locked on the taped-up panel behind my dresser like it was some kind of living thing. We'd pushed the dresser aside, and I peeled the tape back just to show him the opening. But the moment I started doing that, he pulled his hands into his hoodie pocket and said, "Yeah, no. I'm not crawling in there, man. That thing feels off. Like bad dream off." I didn't blame him. But I needed backup. I told him about the photo, the whispering, the text message, everything. And to his credit, he didn't laugh. He didn't roll his eyes or make a joke like he usually would. Josh grew up around some serious stuff, and when he gets quiet, that means he's taking it seriously. After a long pause, he said, "You need to talk to the landlord." So I did. I called the number on my lease that afternoon and got a woman named Marla. Real estate agent voice. Sweet, chipper, fast-talking. I asked her, trying to sound casual, if there was any past tenant named Claire who lived in Unit 3C in the 90s. She hesitated. Then she said, "I'd have to check the records. That was before the building was under current management." "Why?" I just said I'd found some old personal items behind the wall. That I thought maybe I could return them. She promised she'd get back to me in a few days. She never did. That night, things got worse. At exactly 2:17 a.m., I heard the whisper again. It was clearer now. More like a woman's voice, hoarse and strained, right up against my bedroom wall. "He lied to you, Ethan. Don't trust him." I bolted upright in bed, sweating. The room felt wrong. Heavier. Like the air had gained weight. The closet door was open again. I had definitely shut it. I knew I had shut it. I got up, heart slamming in my chest, and stood in front of the open doorway. The crawl space panel was still sealed, but just barely. The tape was starting to curl at the edges. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. By morning, I was half delirious, bags under my eyes, hands shaking. I called in sick to work. I needed to find something, anything, that explained what the hell was going on. So I did what any desperate, sleep-deprived millennial would do. I went to Reddit. I posted in a local history subreddit. Gave vague details. Asked if anyone remembered anything strange happening in my building during the 90s. I didn't expect much. But later that night, I got a message. From a burner account. No posts, no comment history. Just the username, Forgotten Crawl 93. It read, "I know who Claire is. She didn't move out. She disappeared. Cops never solved it. People said she was hearing things in the walls before it happened. Don't go back in. She's still there. I swear to God, my blood froze. I messaged back instantly. Asked where they got this info. If they had proof. They never responded. I spent the next hour reading every archived news article I could find. Finally, buried in an old Chicago Tribune microfilm database, I found a brief report. Woman missing in Lakeview, Claire Mullins, 24, last seen July 14, 1997. Police suspect voluntary disappearance. No forced entry. Voluntary my ass. The kicker? The address listed was my building. My unit. That was all I needed to see. I snapped. I grabbed a hammer, yanked the dresser out of the way again, and tore the panel off the wall completely. If she was still back there, if someone had done something to her, I was going to find her. Or whatever was left of her. I crawled back inside, hammer clenched in one hand, flashlight in the other. This time I took the left corridor. The one that smelled like burnt plastic. It curved slightly, then narrowed. The wood creaked beneath me as I pushed forward. Cobwebs stuck to my face and hair, and I gagged on the thick air. Something metallic clinked under my knee. I reached down and pulled out an old Zippo lighter, faded red, engraved with CM in small, scratched letters. That was when I heard the breathing. Just up ahead. Shallow, raspy, uneven. I turned off my flashlight and held my breath. Still there. My heart was jackhammering in my throat as I slowly pushed forward, inch by inch. My eyes adjusted just enough to see a faint outline in the shadows up ahead. Something was moving. At first, I thought it was a person, maybe a squatter. Maybe Claire somehow, alive and hidden all this time. But as I got closer, I realized it wasn't shaped quite right. It was too thin. Its limbs were too long, and its head, it was tilted at an unnatural angle, like a doll propped on a shelf the wrong way. It was crouched in the corner of the crawl space, whispering. Not to me. To itself. I turned my flashlight back on, and there was nothing. The space was empty. But on the wall, right where the figure had been, were fresh scratch marks. Deep ones. And just above them, in shaky letters. Let her out. That was enough. I backed out, hammer forgotten, shoes scraping on the boards until I hit the closet floor and scrambled to my feet. I slammed the closet door shut and locked it. Then I did the same with my bedroom door. And I sat there, heart thundering, staring at it until the sun came up. The voice didn't come back that night. But the smell did. That sweet, rotten flower smell. Filling the whole damn apartment. And just as I was about to drift off from sheer exhaustion, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another text. Unknown number. It's not her you should fear. It's what she woke up. The apartment didn't feel like mine anymore. I don't mean that in some abstract, sentimental way. I mean it literally felt foreign. Like I was squatting in a place that had rejected me. Every shadow stretched too long. The floorboards creaked in patterns, like something walking just beneath them. The mirrors had this weird delay, like my reflection blinked a half second too late. And the smell. That cloying rot flower scent. It followed me. I tried staying at Josh's place for a few days, but it didn't help. I woke up one night on his couch to a sound I can only describe as scratching. From inside the HVAC vent right next to my head. A faint, rhythmic scrape. Almost like someone dragging their fingernails across metal. And the worst part? I wasn't asleep. I was wide awake. Josh flipped on the lights, saw the look on my face, and immediately asked, "Is it still happening?" I nodded. He didn't ask questions after that. He just said, "You can't run from this thing." That night, I went back to my apartment. I needed answers. I needed to know what the hell was going on in that crawl space. I started digging again. Deep online forums. Obscure databases. Property records. I even posted on a paranormal thread under a throwaway account, something I never thought I'd do. A user named sublevel74 replied within an hour. Their comment was long, loaded with references to building blueprints, electromagnetic anomalies, and liminal entrapments. Honestly, most of it sounded like word salad. But one part stood out. 3C was built over a bricked-off service tunnel. There was an illegal sublevel used in the 50s, rumored to be a psychiatric overflow ward. Supposedly shut down after a fire. Never officially reported. Some say something got trapped down there, between walls. It mimics people. It latches to places. It listens. I swear, reading that made my skin crawl. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed up in the kitchen with every light on. Door locked. Knife on the counter. And just before 3 a.m., I heard the voice again. Only this time, it wasn't whispering my name. It was laughing. A slow, drawn-out hoarse laugh. From the walls. Like someone was right there behind the drywall, mocking me. I slammed my hand against the kitchen wall and yelled, "What do you want?" The laughter stopped. For a few seconds there was dead silence. And then, from right next to my ear, like it was inside my head, I heard, "You saw her. Now she sees you." That broke me. I went to a motel the next night. A rundown place off Belmont Avenue, neon sign buzzing like it hated itself. Cigarette burns in the sheets. Water that came out brown for a full minute before running clear. Didn't matter. I just needed to breathe. To not be watched. It worked. For maybe 3 hours. Then, at 2:44 a.m., the room phone rang. I didn't pick up at first. But it rang again. And again. I finally answered, and I swear on everything, I heard my own voice say, "You shouldn't have left her. She's still waiting in the walls." I threw the phone across the room. Packed my stuff. Left. By 4 a.m., I was parked outside the building again, just staring at the third-floor windows. Mine were dark, but I swear I saw movement behind the curtains. Not a person. A shadow. Tall, angular. Moving too smoothly. That thing wasn't human. The next day, I met with a woman named Elena Ruiz. She was a journalist who'd written some fringe articles about forgotten city structures and unreported fires in old buildings. I'd found her through a post she made on a local history forum. When I told her the address, her whole demeanor changed. She leaned forward and said, "You live in that place?" According to her research, my building used to have a full basement level, long sealed and cemented over after a gas fire in 1954 killed 3 maintenance workers and 1 psychiatric patient they were transporting through a connected tunnel. The records were scrubbed, but she'd found death certificates. The patient's name? Claire Mullins. I told her that was impossible. Claire disappeared in 1997. She looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "Then someone's lying. Because I have records. Autopsy photos. Everything. She burned to death. Or someone wanted people to think she did." At this point, I didn't know what to believe. Was there more than one Claire? Was someone using her name? Had someone replaced her? Or had she been taken by that thing in the walls, and never let go? That night, I returned to the apartment one last time. Armed with Elena's notes, a crowbar, and a small handheld thermal cam I borrowed from Josh. I forced myself to crawl deeper into the wall space. Left this time, then down through a vertical shaft I hadn't noticed before, just wide enough for a person to slide through. It was pitch black. Dust choked every breath. But the air, it was cold. Like cellar cold. I moved slowly, the thermal cam scanning everything ahead. And then, on the screen, I saw her. A faint outline. Crouched. Hunched against the far end of the crawl space. A woman, head low, hands over her ears. She was crying. I don't know what compelled me, but I reached out and said her name. "Claire?" She didn't move. But the crying stopped. Then the screen of the thermal cam flickered and glitched out, static pouring across it, and when it came back, the woman was gone. But her eyes were still on the wall. Not painted. Not scratched. imprinted. Like the wall had remembered her face. Like she was part of it now. I scrambled out of that crawl space like it was collapsing behind me. As I gasped for breath in my bedroom, covered in dust, shaking like I'd been electrocuted, the closet door creaked open by itself. And I heard her again. Soft. Calm. Don't let it out. Please. Then silence. But this time, the silence felt alive. Watching. And I knew then, something had been sealed behind those walls. Something that wanted out. And the only thing that had been holding it back was her. The air in my apartment that night was unbearable. It wasn't just the stench anymore, it was the feeling. Like there was something right there, just out of sight, breathing on the back of my neck. I could feel its presence. Even when I stood still, the air seemed to pulse, vibrate, like the apartment was becoming something else. A place not meant for people. I hadn't slept in days. My eyes were bloodshot, my hands shaky, and every time I closed my eyes, I could see her face in the dark. Claire. Her wide, hollow eyes staring at me from the walls, her form trapped between reality and whatever else had taken hold of her. I wasn't sure anymore if I was losing my mind or if this thing, whatever it was, had already broken it. But I knew I couldn't stay in this apartment a second longer. Not after everything I'd seen. Not after hearing her whisper to me. Warn me. I'd packed my bags. Grabbed whatever was essential, whatever I could carry in a backpack. I left the TV behind, the books, everything. The only thing I had with me was my phone, and even that felt wrong, like it wasn't even mine anymore. But as I reached the front door, about to leave and never come back, I heard something. A voice. Claire's voice. Not from the walls. Not from the crawl space. But from behind me. I turned. She was standing there in the hallway, just a few feet from the door, her face pale, her hair tangled. Her clothes were singed at the edges, as though she had been in a fire, burned, but she wasn't burned. Her eyes, though, they were wide. Too wide. Ethan, she whispered, her voice rough, hoarse, like she'd been crying for years. You're leaving, aren't you? You think you're safe, but you're not. I froze. My legs wouldn't move. Her voice echoed through my skull, louder than the thudding of my heart. And I realized something horrifying. I wasn't alone anymore. The thing had found her. And now, it wanted me. It wasn't just in the walls. It had been waiting in her. In Claire. She stepped forward, and the room seemed to tilt. Like the walls were closing in on me. It's coming, Ethan. You're already too late. The air thickened. The lights flickered. And suddenly, everything in the room, every object, every inch of space, seemed to shift. It wasn't real anymore. It was a distorted version of reality, as if I'd crossed over into a nightmare where the rules didn't apply. The walls moved. I couldn't breathe. The floor rippled like water. I couldn't even keep my balance. I turned to run, toward the door, toward freedom, but before I could reach the handle, I felt her hand on my arm. Cold. Dead cold. Don't let it out. I tried to pull away, but she was too strong. Her grip tightened, and I felt a sharp pain shoot up my arm. I looked down, and where her fingers touched my skin, there were black burn marks, like she was branding me, marking me as hers. The walls cracked. A low, rumbling sound filled the room, like something ancient, something hungry, scraping and tearing, as if the very fabric of the apartment was being ripped apart. I knew in that moment what she meant. I had to make a choice. I wasn't going to get out. Not unless I sealed the crawl space. Permanently. I shoved her hand away and ran for the kitchen. The crowbar was still there, propped up against the counter where I'd left it earlier. I grabbed it and sprinted back down the hallway, toward the closet, toward the crawl space. The door, no, the panel, was wide open now. The hole was huge. I could see it clearly. The blackness beyond. Something moved within that darkness. I could feel its weight. Its hunger. I swung the crowbar at the edges of the hole, slamming it into the walls to force the old wood back into place. but it wouldn't stay shut. It fought against me, like it didn't want to be contained. The wall screamed, and I screamed too, beating it back with all my strength. Then I saw her again. Claire. Her face, pale and hollow, emerged from the blackness, her eyes wide and dead. She didn't speak this time. She didn't need to. She was the doorway. She was the key. With one last, desperate push, I slammed the crowbar into the center of the crawlspace, and I heard it, the thing, screech. And then, silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. I backed away slowly, staring at the now sealed panel, my hands trembling. I stayed there for hours, staring at it. Finally, when the dawn broke, I knew she was gone. Whatever had been trapped inside the walls was gone too. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the apartment was quiet. But that wasn't the end. I left the building, packed up whatever I could and moved out without a word. No forwarding address. No goodbye. But every now and then, when I'm alone in a room too quiet, I swear I hear something. A whisper. A voice, so faint I can't make out the words, but I feel it. I think it's still there. Inside me. Inside the walls. Waiting. And I'll never forget the last thing I saw that night, the flash of her eyes in the dark. Staring. Watching. Waiting.